Melodies of the Open Road. Chapter 1. The Last Gig. The stage lights dimmed, the crowd roared, and Maggie Carter took her final bow. At 62, she had spent over 40 years as a backup singer, lending her voice to legends and traveling the world. But tonight was different. Tonight was her last performance. As she stepped off the stage, her bandmates clapped her on the back, offering words of encouragement and goodbye. Maggie smiled, but her heart felt heavy. Music had been her life, her identity. What would she do without it? Back in her dressing room, she packed up her belongings, a worn leather journal, a collection of old vinyl records, and a framed photo of her late husband, Jim, who had passed away 10 years ago. Jim had always been her biggest supporter, and she missed him more than ever in this moment of transition. "Ready for the next chapter?" asked Louise, her longtime friend and fellow singer. Maggie sighed. "I'm not sure what the next chapter even looks like." Louise smiled. "Sometimes you just have to let the road take you where it's meant to go." Chapter 2. The Road Trip. A week later, Maggie found herself behind the wheel of her vintage Volkswagen bus, driving aimlessly down the open highway. She had no destination in mind, only a desire to clear her head and find a sense of purpose. Her first stop was a small diner in the middle of nowhere. The smell of coffee and bacon greeted her when she walked in, and the jukebox in the corner was playing an old Patsy Cline song. Maggie smiled. It was like stepping back in time. She took a seat at the counter and ordered a cup of coffee. The waitress, a woman about her age with kind eyes and a warm smile, struck up a conversation. "Passing through?" the waitress asked. "Just seeing where the road takes me," Maggie replied. The waitress nodded. "Sometimes the best journeys are the ones you don't plan." As Maggie sipped her coffee, she flipped through her journal, jotting down thoughts and memories. She had started the journal years ago, writing song lyrics, travel stories, and snippets of her life. It was her way of making sense of the world. Chapter 3. The Stranger. Maggie's next stop was a quiet lakeside town in Tennessee. The water sparkled under the afternoon sun, and the sound of laughter filled the air. She parked her bus near the shore and took a walk along the water's edge. As she walked, she noticed a man sitting on a bench strumming a guitar. His music was soulful, filled with emotion, and Maggie couldn't help but stop and listen. "Beautiful," she said when he finished. The man looked up and smiled. "Thank you. I'm Sam." "Maggie," she replied, introducing herself. Sam gestured to the bench beside him. "Care to join me?" Maggie sat down and they began to talk. Sam was a retired teacher who had recently lost his wife to cancer. He had turned to music as a way to cope with his grief, just as Maggie had turned to her journal. They spent the rest of the afternoon sharing stories and playing music together. Maggie's voice blended perfectly with Sam's guitar, and for the first time in years, she felt truly alive. Chapter 4. The Unexpected Detour. As the days turned into weeks, Maggie's road trip took on a life of its own. She visited small towns, met new people, and discovered hidden gems along the way. But one thing remained constant: her connection to music. In one town, she stumbled upon a community choir practicing in a church. The conductor invited her to join, and Maggie found herself singing with a group of strangers who quickly became friends. In another town, she met a woman named Grace, who ran a small music school for underprivileged children. Inspired by Grace's dedication, Maggie volunteered to teach a few classes, sharing her knowledge and passion with the next generation. Each experience filled her heart in a way she hadn't expected. She was no longer just a backup singer. She was a teacher, a mentor, and a friend. Chapter 5. The Reunion. One evening, as Maggie sat by a campfire under a sky full of stars, her phone rang. It was her daughter, Emily, calling to check in. "Mom, are you okay?" Emily asked. Maggie smiled. "I'm more than okay. I'm happy." Emily paused. "I'm glad, but I've been thinking, why don't you come visit us? The kids miss you, and I'd love to see you." Maggie's heart warmed at the thought of seeing her family. "I'd like that." A few days later, Maggie arrived at Emily's home in Colorado. Her grandchildren greeted her with hugs and laughter, and Emily enveloped her in a warm embrace. As they sat around the dinner table that night, Maggie shared stories of her travels and the people she had met. Emily listened intently, her eyes shining with pride. "I'm so proud of you, Mom. You've always been such a strong, independent woman." Maggie smiled. "I've learned that life is about more than just the big moments. It's the small, everyday experiences that truly matter." Chapter 6: The Harmony. After spending a few weeks with her family, Maggie returned to her bus, but this time she had a new sense of purpose. She had reconnected with herself, with music, and with the world around her. Her final stop was a small town in Montana, where she had heard about an annual music festival. The festival brought together musicians from all walks of life, and Maggie felt drawn to it. As she walked through the festival grounds, she was greeted by familiar faces: Sam, Grace, the choir conductor, and others she had met along the way. They hugged her, laughed with her, and invited her to join them on stage. That night, under a canopy of stars, Maggie stood on stage once again. But this time, it wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about the joy of making music, the connections she had formed, and the journey that had brought her here. As she sang, her voice blended with the others, creating a harmony that was both beautiful and profound. For Maggie, it was the perfect ending, or rather, the perfect beginning. Chapter 7: The Road Ahead. The next morning, Maggie packed up her bus and hit the road once more. But this time, she wasn't driving aimlessly. She had a plan. She was going to write a memoir, sharing her journey with others who might be searching for their own sense of purpose. She was going to continue teaching music, inspiring the next generation of artists. And she was going to keep traveling, exploring new places and meeting new people. As she drove, the radio played an old song, one she had sung decades ago. She smiled, tapping her fingers on the steering wheel. The road ahead was long, but Maggie was ready. She had found her harmony, and she was determined to keep singing. The end.